one thing I've consistently done has been to set like intentionally uncomfortable and awkward moves for me. And that's not just like anti-style. It's like that's like actually uncomfortable. Like what some people would call bad moves. I'll set climbs on the springboard that people won't try because they're like this just doesn't feel good. Like why are you setting this uncomfortable weird thing? I'll intentionally set that because I think that's what the leap from say 13 to 14 or even 12 to 13 is. Like it's just being uncomfortable. It's like weird hand positions, like awkward feeling foot positions or weird toe hooks or like like awkwardly high heels. Like it's just like outdoors does not care about how good your body feels on the wall.
Noah Wheeler, Ben Wheeler. Welcome to the Testpiece podcast, you guys.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you for having us.
Yeah, I got both of you guys, the Wheeler brothers. I think you guys are the youngest I've ever had on the pod. I think I might basically be your ages combined, which is it's okay. Because honestly, that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk with you guys. Is that for me, you guys represent this kind of new era, your styles, especially on boards, and even like your YouTube content, just feels a little different from the generation before you. So glad to have you guys here, and kind of cool. We're across the nation right now. We're in 3 different time zones. So thanks
It's
for
true.
hopping on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, before we get into all the board things, all the YouTube things, all the outdoor things, I just want to give a really quick intro for the few people who may not have heard of you guys, even though you're YouTube famous. Your guys' YouTubes have just been blowing up. Wheel Rock, I like that little jab at the institution before you, Wheel Rock.
Yeah.
Uh, so again, your brothers, Noah, you got a few years on Ben. I think you're 21 and 19. You both
Mhm.
are living in Colorado right now, but initially from the East Coast. For me, you guys are best known for just absolutely smashing board climbing. Your sends on the TB2 and Kilter and Moonboard and the cool videos on YouTube just for me represented a new level on the boards. But you guys have also ticked some insanely hard stuff outside. I think FAs up to V14. Noah, I remember when you did Sleepwalker, it was a quick send that kind of made headlines because it's hard as fuck and it was kind of the climb of the moment. But then when you snagged that third ascent of Defying Gravity, that beautiful V15 test piece with arguably one of the hardest moves in the world, which by the way, you pioneered a new way, which was campusing, which is always an interesting way to do a hard move, which actually, now that I say that, may be the hardest campus move ever done in the world. So good on you for that. And yeah, what did I forget, you guys? I know you guys both competed at one point, or maybe still do. Anything I missed there, Ben?
Like outside or competing?
Anything, man. You got whatever highlight I missed, if any. Just don't let me leave out that context of your guys' accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, in competitions, I've made the U.S. team twice, and then the collegiate national team. I think Noah's made the U.S. team also twice, and then the collegiate national team. Uncannily similar competition careers. So
Yeah, but I will say
yeah.
Ben. I'll speak for Ben. He's better at comp than me for sure. He made Vail finals this past month. He's like really strong at comp. Yeah,
I've got some slab in me
for
still.
sure.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So
Way better
what,
than me.
like only like 35 degrees overhung or so? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, slab is like the moon board, kind of 40 degrees. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's start out with your guys' origin story, just because you guys haven't done a ton of media out there on that, and you guys are both young, so the origin story won't take too long. So let's start out with how you guys got into climbing. Maybe Noah, you go. How'd you get into climbing? Where was it? How old were you?
Yeah, so I was in I first time I ever climbed, I was 6 and I went to like a birthday party in like a gym in Pennsylvania. And then 2 years later, we moved, and I guess I needed like some sort of activity for the summer. So I went to like a climbing summer camp when I was 8, and I guess they thought I was pretty good, so I joined the team the next year, or I mean the same year, once the school year started, and then from there I just like competed until um, what I was like 17 maybe, until like around the pandemic, really. Because actually I competed continuously, made finals every once in a while. I think I got like second once, and then I think in 2020 I got second at nationals, and I could go to Worlds, and it was in Russia, and then all of that got canceled by COVID, and then I was like, what do I do now? So then I started going outside, and then I pivoted to like full time outside, basically. Stopped training for comp.
Wait,
It's a
wait,
very
you had you not climbed outdoors before then? Was it like or was that when did you first start climbing outdoors? Please don't tell
yeah.
me it didn't happen until just a few years
That was
ago.
COVID. It was COVID, pretty much. Yeah. But I was doing well. There was a once a year competition at like this crag called Gretna, in Pennsylvania, and we would like go to that like once a year for like I think maybe 2 years. But honestly, we were like extreme, like classic comp kid wimps, where like it was a little bit cold. It was like what 50, and there was like snow on the ground, and like, I was like, oh my god, my feet are so cold. Like I can't do this. Like I can't. So like we didn't really climb outside until like we went to those comps like maybe twice, and then I actually like went outside for the sake of going outside, um, like over COVID. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to summarize what you told me. You got introduced to climbing at a birthday. You just climbed some comps, and then, if I remember correctly, you were forced outdoors by a pandemic, maybe like the Ukraine war too, maybe shut down the World Cup scene, if I
I
remember. And then, didn't you climb V14 within a year outside?
think it was within like 3 months or something. My first day outside,
Oh my
I
god!
did like I FA'd a 12 actually. I think I had a triple double, and then I did that 12. There's like a 13 sit start too, which I did like maybe a month later, and then like a month after that or something, I linked the two climbs together. That was the first 14 in eastern Pennsylvania. So
Good correction there.
yeah,
Yes. Shout out Sam
well,
Weir.
that's
yeah, beast, beast.
ooh, beast. All right. Well, that's a very interesting. I like the classic getting introduced via birthday party, and then that. Yeah, didn't see that coming for the pivot and the success there. Seems like good move there. What about you, Ben? How'd your origin story go?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was hanging out when Noah was introduced to climbing, so I would like go to the gym. I mean, yeah, I definitely like picked up climbing real early when he did because I didn't really do another sport. It's like real bad at karate. And then started climbing with Noah. Like I remember this summer camp at PRG Oaks, and like I like wasn't really into the climbing, but I went because my mom like sent us off to get us out of the house, and that was fun. Like we would just hang out in these like square cubbies, and kids would like pee on the mats and stuff. Chaos. And then I remember, yeah, Noah got like there was a coach at that gym named Randy, who's actually Jesse Grouper's coach currently. She
Yeah.
like was our first coach, and she got like us really into climbing because Noah was old enough then to join the team, and then I just went and hung out for a little while, and then eventually like a year or two later, I was probably like 7. I was able to join the team, and then she coached both of us. We did like private lessons with her, and then like the general team practices for like bunch of years. Yeah, did all the comps and stuff. We would go only like we did outdoor rope climbing because the team would take trips to like the red and the new. So I would do like that was my outdoor climbing experience. And then yeah, COVID came, like comps were canceled or whatever. And then some of the local guys at our gym were like really into climbing outside, and they were like, "You guys are like strong. We'll take you outside." And then we went outside, and like immediately it was like brand new like climbing. It was like discovering climbing all again, like super psyched again, and like that was the start of the outdoor climbing. So yeah,
Mm.
I was younger than Noah then, so like when I
Yeah.
started climbing outside. Yeah.
I like that phrase there, like discovering climbing. Again, there's something that I think is always underrated about switching disciplines occasionally. Not that you have to like
Hmm.
completely abandon wherever you did before, but whenever people give me crap about, it could be board climbing, it could be sport climbing, they're like, no, I do this. I'm like, dude, what if you could find climbing all over again? That's what it's like.
It
So,
is, yeah,
well,
It
yeah.
really is.
so Ben, you weren't that good at karate. How did your early years in climbing go? Did it seem like you were instantly built for it, or yeah? What was your success like when you first started? I mean, I guess you were 7, but
Yeah, but
yeah.
I was good. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my like youth career, like at least in terms of comps, I was like really good at the start, and then like I did youth D. I don't know how it is nowadays, but it was like if you were like I don't know the age, but like a certain age, like 10 or whatever and below. So I started competing at 7. So I was like competing in youth D for like 4 seasons against like old kids, and I would do really well. Like I think I was like fourth or something at nationals one of those years in youth D, and then I got kind of worse actually. So I guess I started off pretty good at climbing compared to karate. Uh, so yeah, so that was good. I mean, I was a purple belt. I wasn't. I guess maybe I was good.
That's
You
pretty
know, who
good. I
knows?
feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds good nowadays, but I was like 6, so I don't. They might just give those out. I don't know.
I feel like you were probably a purple stripe, not a purple. I don't know. Remember they would put
Hey,
like
don't
stripes on the
don't
white
discredit
belts.
my accomplishments.
Yeah.
Ooh, a little brotherly argument there. I like that. Well, no, I'm curious. I know that you guys were in the comp scene and being coached, like you were just saying, before you went outdoors. But I think when we spoke last, you kind of made it sound like perhaps you weren't the hardest working young kid on the team, and you just kind of floated on your natural ability. Uh, what was that like? And why do you think you weren't as driven then as it seems like now you guys have taken climbing a lot more seriously? In fact, I thought that's why you guys moved out to Colorado.
It is. It is for outdoor climbing. Yeah, for outdoor bouldering. Um, yeah, I'll say like my. I feel like I think it's similar for Ben, but I know for sure at least my reputation on like our youth team was like yeah, like doesn't do cross training, like the 30-minute cross training after um the like session ends, like doesn't do like the 4x4s and like the assigned workouts, like basically just like uh well, I have a reputation for like just trying to campus everything and like having bad footwork as well. Like there's a certain like this vibe that goes with this. But
Some things
it's
never
true.
change.
It's that's true. That's true. I would say I had way less like work ethic climbing wise than I do now because I sort of saw climbing as like um an obligation. It's like school and climbing, like they both existed as like things you do and commitments that you like have to go to. I guess another thing is I think I was one of the I won't say like I'll say I think I was doing well in comps despite not really training in the way that people were like pushing me to in like in practice. And I think sort of I didn't have like there was less of like a there was less competition between me and say like someone else who was also doing well in comps like on team. Like that didn't exist for me. So I only sort of had myself. And it's hard to have like inner motivation, especially when you're younger, when like there's not much competition around you. So yeah, I mean in practice I pretty much just did like made ups and like takeaway and stuff. An onside game. Those are the fun games in practice.
So you're saying that you're just like, look, coach, I'm winning anyway, so lay off. Like, who cares what I'm doing? I do know what you're saying
Sort
though,
of,
where
yeah.
if there's no one around you that is kind of like pushing you to be your best, it's really hard to self motivate and to keep on reaching when, yeah, you're just by yourself. But uh, Ben, were you similarly lackadaisical about your about your climbing?
That's a good word there. Lackadaisical. I would say Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like I was enthusiastic about climbing. Like I loved it, and I do love it, and I like wanted to go. But it was definitely like the social aspect for me as a kid was like the bigger motivator. Like I never felt like was never going to practice like, oh, like I'm gonna get better today. Like I'm gonna like train and I'm gonna like start a path to get better. It was like, oh, dude, like I get to go see my friends, and like hang out and like yeah, like Noah said, we played a lot of like games, like climbing games, which I think might actually be good. Like that might have been good training for us, but it wasn't to get better. It was because they were fun. So yeah, I just did what he did pretty much.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
wondering now, in hindsight, if either of you maybe know if you have done things differently. Like it's always this interesting question where I don't know. I don't want to bring up this. This is almost like a taboo topic around like weight training. Like I'll see people, there'll be these amazing climbers like Sean Bailey or something, and he doesn't do hangboard or doesn't do a bunch of weights, and people will say, "Oh, well, just imagine if he did do those." And my pushback would be that it's you can't have that counterfactual. Like, look at the success they're having now, and so I'm just curious. Do you guys have? Yeah, no. Do you have any regrets? Like, do you wish? Oh man, if only I had taken it more seriously. Now I would be a step further.
I think I think maybe I have regrets in my mindset, but at the same time, I think at least for me, I just grew into motivation. I think when you're younger, it's natural to just like see things as an obligation and like a given, right? And I think you kind of form what you you form a sense of what you want to be motivated towards or what you know you enjoy as you grow older. Um, and so I don't really blame myself for not having a ton of motivation when I was like up to like say 14. And then also I do think like what Ben was saying, like playing games like is basically we were basically just sprayboarding for like I don't know 7 years when we were training, and it's like I think it was more conducive to outdoor climbing in a lot of ways, especially just the gyms we were climbing at. They didn't set very comp style. I think like personally now I think sprayboarding is like one of the most ideal ways to train for outdoors. So in hindsight, I think it was maybe beneficial for us, and also it did form a sense of like competition that otherwise we wouldn't have. Like I like oftentimes because I was older than Ben, if we played on-site game, like I would get like a natural penalty sort of. Like my points count for half of the points that like Ben and some other persons do, right? And so it's formed like a sort of like competitive spirit to like try hard. So yeah, I think it was sort of helpful for my climbing in hindsight.
What about you, Ben? Would you have done anything different now that you're wise at and old at 19 and thought, oh man, if only I had doubled down earlier?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm gonna claim that if I had doubled down earlier, guys, I would be the best climber in the world, 100%, fully. You're lucky. You're all lucky, actually. But
You still have time, Ben.
on
You
a
still
more,
have time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In a real note,
You're good.
I think, I mean, if you go into like the youth comps or you go and look at Youth D and you see all these like guys and girls who are like, I mean, anyone in finals, like those kids are like supremely talented. Like if I went in there, I'd be like, oh my God, like I am not good. Like they're the future. They're amazing. And they are. And like it was like that when I was in UD. And the thing is, like if I look at all those people in finals, like how many of them kept climbing and how many of them burnt out. And it's like you can start training really young, and I'm sure I would be have been better when I was younger if I took it super seriously, but like burnout is an incredible like risk to kids who are good and young. And like honestly, like not being burnt out and not being injured at my age is like definitely all I can ask for. Like that's all you need. Like that's what makes climbing fun is like I like didn't lose my motivation. I wasn't like pushed too hard by my parents or my coaches to like take it seriously, and I was like able to be a kid and I still love it, which it's got to be part of it. So I'm happy that I
That's
wasn't
all that
injured.
climbing's about, just having fun. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
Who cares?
Well, it's really I mean, even if your goal is to be really good, if you're not having fun, it's really hard to put in that extra effort and do it over time if there's not actual joy there because it's just you can't outwork someone who's their work is fun for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I ask and I take it seriously because I've got a couple of young kids, and it sounds like it sounds like your parents, like, no, you were saying school and climbing were just like these obligations that I had to do. And it's something I think about with my kids, where I feel like you don't really know the what you're going to end up wanting to do when you get older. Like you're saying, it's kind of, you kind of almost have to grow into your motivation. But I also don't want to let them close doors on themselves too young, like where maybe they don't love climbing, but maybe they do, and I want to encourage them throughout. It's like, okay, you got good at climbing, now you could just quit. You're 16, just be done. Like maybe you'll never do it again, but if you change your mind and you really want to do it, and this could be with school as well, it's like, how about you just get good grades? If you want to go to college, you can go to college. If you don't, well, at least you didn't have that door closed to you. And so
Hmm.
but I don't know, that whole burnout thing is real. And so, yeah, okay, well, good stuff on that. I am kind of curious. I hear these little hints of it. You guys are brothers, which in some ways gives
Yes.
you the best training partner ever. In some ways, gives you the ultimate competitive spirit. In some ways, gives you someone who's always down to support and join. But I probably, I'm guessing that it has more impact on you, Ben, as a younger brother. What's it like having or being brothers that both climb, and what does it do to your climb? Do you think it pushes you to be the best you can be, or what were the pros and cons there?
Yeah. I mean, this is, yeah, people, I think like people assume there's more animosity than there is usually, which makes sense because I do feel, I don't know the adjective of animosity, angry at Noah a ton. But like really, climbing is the least animostic thing that we do. And I don't know what it is, but like yeah, like I like get really like I get really mad at him about like other things we talk about in life and stuff. But in climbing, I've really never felt like that competitive or like rivals with him in climbing. Like the age helps, and I think also like he's saying like the way that we were like raised in climbing, like when we were young, like we were talking about, it wasn't like I grew up being like, oh, like climbing's about getting better and it's about like being better. It was more like climbing's about like going to the gym and like messing around on the wall. And like it was just like, oh, like Noah and I, we just climb together, like we play games. It's not like I wasn't thinking at all about like how good I am compared to him at my age or like how I'm gonna get that good, like things like that. So I mean, the positives are like huge. Definitely like the best thing for my climbing ever um, is like having him like there because yeah, I mean like having a so he we like share similarities in our climbing a little bit, but also like our climbing styles are super different, and like seeing his like natural strengths um inspired me to like try and like get those even though they're not things that I naturally like. The board climbing is kind of or was like Noah's thing. Like naturally he was like inclined towards the board, like that style of climbing, and I was not at all. But because I had that role model, I would like followed him into being really into boards, and now like I think it's like in my style. Like I like board climbing and I'm good at it, and that's because of that. So it's, I mean, the biggest advantage you can have in climbing is having someone who's better than you climb with you constantly for like 12 years. So it's good, I would say.
That's cool. What about for you, Noah?
Um, yeah, I think it's been pretty positive for me. I think like I think even though I'm the older brother, I like I also feel like it's more of a like he learns things from me and I learn things from him. Like his style, which is more I would say naturally more technical, especially with like opposing your feet to like generate tension and stay on the wall and like reach towards stuff and not always pull your way up the wall. It's like really I'm like wow, this is like way more efficient. Even on like board, I see that a lot, and so I feel like I try to imitate him in like more often than you would think. It does feel like not very uh yeah, like I don't know, angry or intense or anything. It feels like we both can learn from each other, you know, especially outdoors with like it's good to like I feel like we sort of have such a good sense of each other's way of climbing and how we interact with the wall and beta. So when we're outside and we're like working a climb together, we can really like workshop beta, and it's a nice like experience to um yeah, like try the same stuff and experiment with beta and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. I'm jealous. I think that having a climbing partner that that you're really close with is both the most fun thing in climbing, that social aspect, and the most useful of getting better, because there always is, you know, it's with good climbing partners, there's competition, but it's a different kind of competition than you won and I lost, or vice versa. It's like this learning, it's a pushing to do something better. And those different styles are really cool, where when I think of some of the best gains I've had in my climbing, it's when I climbed with guys that were a similar level to me but had different styles,
Hmm.
and I would just see them do a move and I would just think, I would have never even thought that, like, that just didn't even cross my mind. And then when you see it in front of you and you see success there, either you can do it that way also, or you just can experiment with that style, and now your eyes are open to a new ability. And that's especially outdoors. So
Yeah.
uh you guys, you said boards a few times there. You guys climb on boards. I climb on boards. I
Ah,
like boards.
darn
You
it.
guys, I can't resist but to pull on that thread a little bit, because it's something that I think we all enjoy. And you guys, I would argue that you all seem to be maybe in the top five. I don't know. You guys are some of the best board climbers in the world from everything I've seen, and you can just take that compliment. You don't have to argue for it or against it. But I really believe that, and that's why I'm really happy to get to talk to you guys about it. And the first thing I want to ask about it is just, what do you enjoy about it, Noah? Like, what is it about board climbing that you find fun compared to comp climbing or normal gym climbing?
Um, I think like I think it is nice to feel or to like do things that are in your style that you feel like you're good at. It's enjoyable to do that, and I feel like boards have always been sort of my style. So I've always just like naturally enjoyed feeling strong on a type of climbing, right? That I do a lot. And then I can like it's a very translatable way to like push myself in that strength that I also enjoy a lot. So it like almost gamifies a type of climbing that I already enjoy. And then two, like the community aspect of boards is just what makes board. Like there's just no the reason it's the best to me. It's like the best way to train. If you're to like typify different types of training, like it's like largely because you can compare yourself to other people so directly, and an obvious there's such obvious milestones. And it's almost like there's a sense of replicating the crag, like there are climbs that you're like there are famous climbs in a way among the board community, and that's like I think that's like part of what makes outdoor climbing. Just like this climb has a personality. It's the same for boards. Like you can almost get a sense of personality from a board climb.
Sh- Shout out a few of those climbs that really stick out in your head as being iconic.
Um, I think I FA'd a climb called Jellyfish that I think is
I knew it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
knew it. He was going to
yeah,
say his
yeah,
own climb.
yeah,
Yeah, couldn't possibly be anyone
yeah.
else's. They're mine. My climbs have
Well, I'm always
personality.
like
They're the famous
I'm
ones.
biased because I think I don't know. I
You were
enjoy
itching to
climbing
say it.
my climbs the best, but Jellyfish is definitely a like I think uh kind of a test piece for like contact strength, and I think it's sort of formed a sense in the community that like um it's like if you do it, you're pretty good at like contact strength and weird swingy stuff. And then what's another one? Let's see. Ben's
There's
kind of
okay,
a
like
board
obvious
nerd.
ones.
He's yeah, all the
No, I mean, okay, Black Beauty and
Black Beauty's
Project Two have got. I mean,
Black Beauty
those
must
are
be the number one.
those like
I wasn't even
No,
thinking about
most
moonboard.
aura in
Oh
board
man,
climbing for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Black Beauty has to
No,
be number
that's
one. That's like
it's like someone does that and it's like the most liked post that they've had, and they climb V15. Like no one cares about their outdoor climbs. They did Black Beauty. You know, it's like
then
famous.
there's
Or
the
like
tension one. There's what's that crimpy? What's it called? Yeah,
Kitten
Kitten
Paws.
Paws. There's like
Yeah, that's an underground one, but
it's underground,
those who
but
know that that's the hardest board climb ever done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Really?
Ah,
Who FA'd that? Who said
it's
it? Who
Matt
FA'd it?
Foltz.
Matt Foltz.
Mm.
It's ridiculous. Like next time you're on a TB1 or anyone listening, pull up Kitten Falls 40 degrees. That's like I think it's only been done twice by Matt Foltz and then our good friend Anant Mathur, the
Yeah.
goat. Yeah, never. Yeah, he's underground, and that's like the crimpiest climb I've ever touched for
I think
sure.
there's some what's
Yeah,
it? I think,
Wait,
oh, what's
wait.
it called? Sky or Franconian Sky.
Franconian
That's
Sky.
like Franconian Sky. That's like one of those climbs as well. For sure.
I'm literally just writing these down right now.
Is that Magos? I think.
Right. Yeah, what boards? Yeah, let's go. So first of all, I want to know which board Jellyfish is on, just so
Oh,
I
that's
can
Kilter.
go and see how my contact strength. That's Kilter board. Okay, okay.
Kind
So you know what? Your
Um,
famous climb? He's never heard of it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, I'm not a Kilter boarder. I love the Kilter board. I just have never really been around one for very long, and so I'm more of a moon boarder. And recently, just have become pretty obsessed with the TB2. So,
That's
Oh
cool.
yeah, oh yeah.
on that note, I'm kind of curious. Actually, what is the hardest board climb you think you've done, Ben?
Oh,
Yeah, Ben, you go
Yeah.
first. You go first.
that's a good question. Wow. Okay, I would say it's probably a climb called Drunks Unlimited on the Kilter board. That's it's I mean Kilter it doesn't really go above V13, but it's given V13 on the Kilter board. It was like a project from
Jimmy, right?
um
Jimmy said it.
Jimmy. Yeah, it was a Jimmy set and project, and then Yannick FA'd it, and then I beat Noah to the second ascent. Yes, everyone, you heard that. I did. I
It's
beat
true.
Noah, and then
It's
a bunch
true.
of people did it after me. But that's probably it is
A
probably the
bunch of
hardest
people.
V13 on the Kilter board. Yeah, I would say that. Or Project 2 was pretty hard for me. I did that on the Moonboard 2016. And then on Tension
The
board,
extendo clip.
maybe Midwest
Oh, Midwest Emu.
Extendo Clip or Midwest Emu. Midwest Emu's a Noah Wheeler set. Yeah, it's pretty good. Rare. And that one, I think it's given V12, but it's definitely V13. And then Extendo Clip is a classic V13 as well.
Yeah, that one's
So
sick.
those ones.
That one's hard.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, what about you, Noah?
Hardest climb.
What do you where the and I like also that Ben went to each board to
Okay.
talk. I feel like that's a good way to think
give-
about it.
I don't do moonboard. Like, I fell in the last move of Project 2 on my Flash Go. So, but that's like about all that's probably the hardest one I've tried on Moon. So I'll say that, I guess, even though I didn't do it. Hardest I've tried. And then, for Kilter, it might, honestly, it used to be jellyfish, or it used to be jellyfish until like a few months ago. And I did a climb I called it like Siamong, which is like that monkey thing. And it's like, I think it's the hardest shoulder move I've ever done. It's like you start on like a left hand pinch, right hand crimp, high right foot. You just like lurch, I like a 5 feet or something to like this right hand Gaston. And you get like a high foot on that like out left, and then you just like it's not too hard from there, maybe like V10. But the first move is like I don't even know how many sessions it took. A lot, over 5, I would say.
Dude,
Yeah.
you guys love these just heinous shoulder moves. Just these I'll see them and I just like I hurt my right shoulder on a gas. I dislocate like doing a right shoulder Gaston, and I'll just watch some of these climbs, especially on the Kilter board. I feel like the Kilter board especially lends itself to like really reachy Gastons that I just want nothing to do with. Well, that actually leads into what I was also going to ask was, what's the hardest move you've done on the Kilter board, or sorry, on any board climbing? And because I always think I always have this. I've asked this question before a few times to pros, where what's the hardest move in the world? And we often talk about outdoors. And by the way, no, I think Jimmy said defying gravity, that
Mm.
first move was perhaps the hardest move in the world that he had tried, or maybe done. I don't know how which one that means. So I just find this. I think that this is what's interesting about grading too. Is there's something to be said for bouldering being this distillation of difficulty, and I think board climbing is something I've always been attracted to because I like seriously hard moves. Like it's one thing to like link hard moves together, which is really cool. There's something about just pulling off the hardest freaking move you can do that I think is really, really fun, and board climbing represents that often. So maybe that say the name like Seo monkey. I don't know what you're talking about. Like some monkey
Siamang,
name with
Siamang,
Seo Mong. I don't know what that is, but
Siamang one. Actually, it's
okay,
Siamang one is
okay,
what I called it. Um,
okay.
I think
Is
it's
that
a.
the hardest move you think you've?
I think so. That or the jellyfish first. Well, jellyfish second move is really hard. Um, yeah, it's gotta be one of those.
Ben, anything comes to mind for you?
I mean, immediately without. I mean, the second move of Project Two, like the off that disgusting, like I don't even know what that hold is, and you like pull like real far across your body. That one is real hard. And then there's like I did I did the first move of this one of the new benchmarks on the moonboard, called Blockland from
Hmm.
Elias Yagnema. That's a new benchmark 13, I think. The first move is like a huge jump off a pocket to like a three
Oh,
finger
so
thing.
hard.
That one is another
Yeah.
one. And then on Kilter, I mean Franconian Sky. That's like V13 two moves. So the second move of that is pretty hard.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, one of those probably.
The reason why I really wanted to ask this to you guys is that it's so cool how anyone listening can just go pull it up. It's like you want to know
Yeah,
what that
yeah,
what these guys say is maybe the hardest moves on the boards, or you know, they can just go feel it. They can go try it and just see what it's like. And I think that's so freaking cool. And I got ask, especially you know, I don't know if you went out to Defying Gravity, Ben, but how does that first move on Defying Gravity stack up to some of the stuff on the boards? And you can see I'm definitely going to use this to lead into talking about grading and how grading works on boards versus everything else.
Yeah. Uh, I guess like the way you when you watch me do the move on the canvas on Defying Gravity, it just looks like I'm canvassing on like whatever the like decent holds, but it's like insanely nuanced. Like there's like half of learning the like doing the move or more was just like finding the exact positions I need, the exact like finger positions I need, the exact like way I swing into the wall and then out of the wall, and like exactly where I hit the hold. It just like outdoors there's always just infinitely more nuance than on board. I think like the reason that I might take more sessions on a board climb or like a board climb move, but still give it like V12 or V13 is because it's not nuanced at all. It's extremely simple. It just like it's only one. It's only a few aspects of your climbing repertoire being like strength and maybe fingers. You know, it just like when a move is that simple, um, it's hard for me to I don't know like yeah like, give it a higher grade than the norm I guess for board, and then also it's hard to compare it to outdoors because you are giving way more effort, at least mental effort, on outdoor climbs, like especially like any climb and especially defying gravity first move. Um, it's yeah, the nuance difference is like huge, and that's why boards are nice in a way because it just still is climbing down to just like strength, you know.
yeah, yeah. I did try the defying first move, and I would say like, yeah, there's a real like difference in the difficulty of that move versus like the moves on boards I can't do. Like that move, it's like classic like thing that happens outside where you're like you try the move like 15 times and then one go you pull on and it's just oh like this is different like the holds feel good this time, and it's because like the subtleties of like the texture in the rock and like the tiny little dimples in the rock, like you can't really like consciously control all that, and like you have to try to. So like random goes will feel really good, and like there's infinite things you can like change each go. Like you can move your finger 1 inch to the side and like your heel hook 2 inches to the side and mix and match that forever till you figure out the move.
Mm,
Whereas on boards, pretty much every time I pull off the ground, it feels like the same. I don't really have goes where I'm like, oh my god, like that felt like a totally different climb. So like the moves on board I can't do, I don't even feel remotely possible that I can do them. Like they feel impossible, and then I need to get stronger and go back. Defying gravity, um, every go you can make slight progression,
mm.
and it's like up and down, like figuring things out. And like I could do that move, it just would take a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of thinking, whereas the hard moves on board don't require that.
Boards do tend to feel a bit more binary, where it's like, oh, I can't do this climb. Like or I can't do this move. It just feels like a impossibility for your strength in that moment. But just to push back on this, it's something that grading is supposed to represent is like perfect conditions and perfect beta. And the fact that as you chip away, it gets easier and easier. But then when you do it, if it's physically the same difficulty as one of those moves that you just mentioned on the board, like, does that, I don't know, like, does it seem strange that the only argument for that climb being more difficult, having a higher grade, is just because you have to chip away at the beta longer, but then once it's chipped away, it's kind of solved? Like, what do you think about that?
Um,
No, I'm just
yeah.
I'm just trying to
Oh no, I see what you
understand it
mean.
better.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think like doing a move without that nuance of like chipping away. Ultimately, it is just a like how much like if you say you're strong enough, like doing the move without the nuance is basically just like how much you're. It's like putting in the effort and trying hard enough, like pulling hard enough, using your muscles hard enough. I don't see how that's like you're exerting effort in just as you would exert effort to chip away at a move to figure out the nuances. You're still trying and you're still spending time towards figuring out a move. I think the nuances um I think the nuances still add to the difficulty, even if it doesn't add to like the physical taxing. I guess that would be my how I see it.
That's cool. Ben, I want to hear your take. I just want to be very clear that I used a very poor adjective of chipping away. Do not chip away at your project. Please do not go to define gravity and chip away at the difficulty. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's what we meant when we say chipping away at the first move of defying gravity. We mean every go we try it, and if we can't do it, we take a little chisel and it makes it a little
ooh,
deeper.
smart, good beta.
That's
Just kidding.
That's what
We're just kidding. It's
this is what
not
the
real.
pros don't want you to know.
this this
These
is
are
how
the
they're all
secrets.
ascending VCs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No. I think that there's like it is like interesting because I mean we decided how grades work, and like I think it's quite clear that grades are not uh, based on the physical effort of a climb. Like there's plenty of outdoor climbers who climb super high grades who are not that good on a board, or like there's plenty of outdoor climbs that obviously you try them more and they get easier. And I think like it's not. I think the difference is like we try not to like grade based on like figuring out beta, but like beta and nuances are like different. At least how we've decided. Um, like nuances are, I guess, the things that you can't like see, or like the things you can't learn from like a video as easily. Like there's, yeah, I don't know, like tiny like positions in like your hips and stuff like that. I would say are not like beta, and it's not like something that everyone is capable of learning. Like beta would be like if someone tells you and like you tried enough, then you figure it out. But like there are nuances where people are just not good enough climbers to like understand a movement in that way. And the people who do climb those high grades, they are good enough climbers that they can unlock positions that
Yeah.
you can't
Just
unlock
look at
without a
Dave
lot of
Grant.
effort.
That's
Yeah. Like it's not just that they're like smarter and like more focused. It's that they're actually better and they know like they can move in ways that
Hmm.
you can't. You know.
That's really well said, Ben. And this is something that I think often gets lost when people say, "Oh, do you have good technique?" And it's like there's a physicality behind technique of literally putting your body in the right place. That strength is not exactly the right way to say it, but just knowing where to put your feet is not the right way to say it either. Like that's like misses a
Yeah.
lot of what actually happens. And but this is one of the reasons why when guys like me look at you guys and see you smashing the boards, we go, oh, interesting. I wonder what is in store for these guys because if you that strength is still a ceiling in some ways. Like there, if you are, it's a limiter. If I don't care if you are the best, if you're Dave Graham, and if you only have the finger strength of a V2 climber, it just still doesn't matter. And we can say, people joke about Dave Graham not being that strong, but he actually is really strong. Like he may not be
Yeah.
the strongest pro climber out there, but physically he is still extremely strong. And I believe that strength is still a limiter for your potential. And so that's why I like seeing you guys do what you do on the boards is so interesting, exciting as the kind of ushering a new era because hearing that you are spending more time outdoors and finding those subtleties, you go, oh wow, like what are you capable of? So yeah, the grading thing is always I just can't help but ask about
Yeah.
the great grade
Yeah.
debate.
About the Dave Graham thing, like it is interesting to talk about because like his metrics he's like talked about are like really bad or whatever. Like he said in some interview or something that he couldn't do like a one arm at one point. People are like, "Oh my god!" But like anyone who thinks he's like not physically strong, like go drive to Hypnotize Minds
Dude,
and try and pull off the ground on the correct move. And like there's no amount of smartness
and I
that
was
is going to
trying
get
like,
you through that.
yeah,
Like that is
trying
physically
creature the other
hard.
day or
Yeah.
like yesterday. Like he did that thing. That thing is so thuggy. Even if you're doing like dropping his on every move, like yeah, there's a certain bar that you have to be at for sure. Even just to like get in positions that where you can find good like technique. Just to like pull on. Yeah.
Well, and this is also some of my pushback against people getting too obsessed with metrics is that how can you really showcase or quantify what power is when it's like power through a drop knee on a roof? Like does a front lever actually showcase that ability, or one arm pull up? It's like those are just tangential, and I'm not saying they're bad, I'm not saying they don't show anything, but you can have someone who can do 10 one-arm pull-ups but then don't have that same body tension through a roof like Dave Graham, and that power is dispersed throughout every little stringy tendon that guy puts into action. So oh man, I love it, you guys. While we're up by creature, Noah, you just did Jade, and you said something on your, I think it was Instagram, that you were like, "Oh, it's like my anti-style," or it's it's not, it was not in your normal wheelhouse. And I just kind of, first of all, congrats, man! What a beautiful boulder up there. That's really cool. And I just kind of wanted to understand why a climb like that isn't your style when in some ways it kind of looks like a freaking board, man. It's like a flat plane. I don't know how steep it is, but it's not 45, but it's pretty steep. It's like gotta be like 30 or 35 or something. What was it like doing Jade, and why did it make you kind of level up in a different way?
Yeah. I mean, it's I say that or I said that largely because it like forces a fulcrum basically. Um, and I historically have like only climbed in half and uh like less than half crimp, and I had to like I realized like outdoors sometimes you're often forced into like fulcrum positions. So this past year I've worked more on yeah, just like actually closing my grip and like the foot tension that accompanies that. Like yeah, I don't know. This especially like like towing into the wall, right? And I feel like Jade was like a test piece for like full crimping and then like like having your feet or your toes as like the opposite anchor that is necessary to get to the next hold. And what like that's like the opposite to that would be just like hanging on your hands and like moving between your arms essentially, you know. And that's historically how I've climbed, like shaped by my experience on boards. So t Jade's kind of like it's not like it's more like evidence of the thing I've worked on, that I found I would need to be stronger at to do the climbs outdoors that I want to, you know, do. I don't know. Or yeah, be better, a little bit better outdoors, you know.
Yeah, and it sounded like you. I I, I know I kind of made it sound like a nemesis block or however I, but it also sounded like you actually just kind of leveled up over the course of time since you tried it before and actually kind of smashed it pretty quick. But that's interesting to hear about the differences in board climbing of that kind of lurpy jump and latch versus that kind of really trying to get weight on that foot, stay under that. It's almost like you don't really pull through that hand, like you kind of like pull around it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like versus like yarding to the next hold. So yeah, just kind of cool to hear the
Yeah, it's all
subtlety
about
there.
like it's really about like getting the full crimp so that you can get your weight on your right hand so that you can like press on that good left foot with the right angle of your leg essentially. So it's like it is all about putting that pressure onto your left foot eventually, but you have to have the crimping necessary to do that. It's yeah, it's weird. It's cool.
I, I'm gonna ask both of you guys about full crimping. I'm kind of curious about your history being more in the gym. Maybe Ben, we can go to you, but I think you might, I know your guys' style is different, but I also, I got to point out just because a little bit of history there. Uh, Carlo Traversi had come on this podcast and said something about how he almost never full crimps, and caught a lot of flack for that because people don't really understand what he meant by there. But what's interesting, the reason why it made me think of it, is he got an early ascent of Jade as his first theoretical V15, and I think he was the first one to propose a downgrade to V14 because he said that he's not typically a crimper style. And so it's just interesting to hear that that was like a block that made you full crimp. And yeah, so Ben, how do you? I know you guys have different styles, but uh, when you started going outside more, did you run into a similar issue with all that board climbing and competition climbing you've done when it comes to full crimping versus open handing or half crimping?
Actually, yeah. Yeah. Like nowadays, I love full crimping, and I think I'm actually really good on climbs that are forced full crimping and static. But going outside, coming from a comp background, it is like the holds are smaller and sharper than anything you've ever seen by a lot. Like it's just not holds I've ever climbed on. And like for the first um like probably year, 2 years of climbing outside, it was definitely like a huge weakness of mine is the like when you have to like high angle and close your thumb around your pointer. Yeah, like the when Noah and I went out like this climb that Noah said like the first time he went out he FA'd like a V12 and then like the low start like V14. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that that climb is like all blocked slots. Like every hold, it's a slot into the wall. You can't go like that because your knuckles hit the wall, and like that was like perfect for us because it's like you're like crimping, but like you're half crimping. And yeah, I had to make a like really concentrated effort. Just like actually, it was definitely mostly like my friend Anant who I was talking about who did that really hard tension climb. He's like he even as a comp climber for some reason he has never half crimped ever. He can't hang 20 mil half crimped, but he can one arm like 10 mil or 8 mil full crimped. And like the things he could do on holds that I just couldn't touch, that was like huge inspiration. And just climbing with him on the spray board, I like turned it into a strength for sure. And that has been the biggest level up in my outdoor climbing for sure. Because now like I haven't lost my like comp kid like drag that like is kind of ugly, but like I can now full crimp. And like those combined, you can just function on like a lot of climbs, a lot of holds.
Comp kid drag. What is it about kids that they just three finger open hand
Yeah, I
everything?
Dude,
don't
that's
know.
the Brooke
It's
Rabbit
like
Colin Duffy. I don't, dude. It makes watching Colin climb is like it's on. He could like I don't know. He's fully like this, and he can like
You
lock
see
off on it. I
you
don't
see
get it.
calling on the Grinch? You see that video? The Grinch SDS.
I didn't.
It's like
I
it's
have,
one of the
yeah,
crimpiest holds I've
yeah.
grabbed. He just like does this. It's like a vert crimp rig. He just does this on the. It's insane. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
I
I would
mean,
not. I mean, he makes it work. I would not recommend that for most people.
It's
I mean, what's funny is that the pendulum has swung. Like people used to only full crimp when people only really climbed outside before gyms kind of came along, and then you would there's this kind of almost typical thing, this comp kid drag, totally get it, but really you want both to be great, right? Like it's because there are times where, dude, when you wrap that thumb and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, like this feels good.
Yeah,
But then,
yeah,
being able to gecko your way up those slopers and stuff, like you always have those friends who there's like some big sloper and then they find like one little dimple and they full crimp it and you're like, no, dude, like do not turn that
yeah,
big
yeah.
slopey ball into a full crimp. Um,
yeah.
so on the kind of classic system boards like the tension or the kilter or the moon board, and I should put decoy board in there also, even though I haven't climbed on one. Those do seem to have
Grasshopper.
grasshopper. Those do seem to have generally larger holds, I would
Mhm.
say, but spray walls can have micro edges, and I'm kind of curious what you guys trend towards. And maybe Ben, will start out with you. I know it sounded like you guys did some training on spray walls when you were younger. Well, I'm not so sure system boards were all that popular back then, but there's a broader question here too, just about what you use the different boards for, why you like each board, but just the general like kind of spray wall versus tension, kilter, moon. Which when do you tend to choose that over those other boards?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely the most important thing about when I do which is just like how recently I did. Like I just like to alternate between. I think it's really dangerous and not good for your climbing if you climb on like a moon board 5 days a week, like whatever. And I mean, most people probably like that's kind of impossible to do anyways. But like, yeah, that's not a good idea. So for me, um, I use boards as like it's almost like the top like it's like a substitution for like campus boarding or hang boarding. Like I use boards when I feel like system boards, like moon board or tension board, when I feel like my body is fully healthy and I'm at fresh at the start of a session and my fingers are not fatigued at all and I don't feel sore from climbing previous days and I feel like ready to like train and like exert my body and fingers fully. And then I get on the board and I'm like I try and like max like hardest crimps, jumps, whatever. And then spray board is more like my general climbing. If I feel like honestly, most days, like say I'm like coming in from an outdoor project, it's like oh like that was all in my left hand. I was full crimping my left hand, and my right hand was on in a ret, all slopers, and my hamstrings tired because I was heel hooking on my right side the whole time. And then I go to the spray board and I just set something where I'm not crimping on my left hand and I'm crimping on my right hand and my left foot is engaged. So things like that. The spray board just it's a lot easier because there's usually like more holds, more hold types, um, and you can like set things to like cater to your climbing and like climb in a safe way, not necessarily just like the hardest things you can possibly do. And you can do that on some boards, I'm sure, but a lot of them just like especially if you're like psyched on like trying the climbs that your friends are setting or other people are setting, it's like hard to control yourself and it's dangerous to like jump to crimps after climbing 2 days on. So boards are more of like a first day on, like feeling good, feeling strong. And then spray board is like I'm specifically setting things to work a weakness or avoid an injury. Yeah.
How about you, know? Is that
Yeah.
how you see the differences between those two
I
categories?
do think. Yeah, I'd say that's fairly. I'd say that's a difference I would also identify. I think also. I think in an ideal world, like there have been. I'll say there have been like at for example where we climb at SCC. I think the spray board they've built there is done in a way more conducive to like training for outdoors than even the tension board too, right next to it, which I think is the best system board for climbing, or for training for outdoors. I think like in like ideally you would be spending most of your time on the springboard because it has more varied holds. I think the feet, if it's set well, you can set really small feet that you have to tension really well, but they're really like slippery and bad, and it really trains good foot tension. Um, like you have big holds, you have small crimps, you have really ankle crimps. It's just like ideally you would train on the springboard most of the time. But like the community aspect of the tension board does make it very appealing, and that is like a legitimate reason why you would climb on it because it makes you want to climb on it more. You can climb what people who are they always say like climb with people who are better than you. You can try the things people that are better than you are setting and doing, which you might not be able to do on the springboard when there's not people better than you at the gym or you don't know what those climbs are.
Well, that's why I wrote down those climbs you guys mentioned earlier as the really hard ones, and I'm gonna go look
Let
at
us know what
them
you
and
think.
think,
Yeah.
"Ooh, those are serious." So no, you just said something about the tension board. I think you were talking about the TB2 being the best one for outdoor climbing. How do you rank the boards out there? And maybe ranking is the wrong word. I don't know if I want you to have to put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also, you guys got to do that session on Daniel Woods' new board. That was a really cool video. I'll link that in the show notes too. I love seeing you guys climb with Daniel Woods. But maybe instead, I don't want. I feel like ranking is the wrong way. When you think of the kind of different common boards that people have available to them, what would you say they excel at, or where do they help you, and maybe where are they lacking? And that's why maybe, like you were saying, Ben, it's not good to always climb on, say, the moon board.
I feel like the moon board is good for like building that like I don't not natural but like guttural like contact strength grab crimp or pinch and like move off of it. Like latch. Like that basic like crimp dynamic strength. Um, but it's not. I feel like it's not as quite as nuanced as like the TB2. I think TB2 is really good for. Well, I think you can train you can train in many styles on the TB2, but um, I think it's like more conducive to like static tensiony crimping. It's very tensiony. And then kilter board, yeah,
Aptly
yeah,
named.
and then kilter board. I think you can actually set pretty tensiony crimpy climbs on it, but generally it is like pretty uh, it's more. I think it's the most powerful board, obviously. That's like what everyone thinks of it as. But yeah, very powerful, very shouldery. They all work different things, but I do think the tension is a bit more nuanced. But there's a place for all of them.
What about you, Ben? I know you've spent more time on the moon board, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you think of the pros and cons?
Yeah. Well, let me think. I think a big thing that kind of I think we maybe realized this way, or at least I had never thought about it when we were climbing with Daniel, and he was telling us about his thing, the woods board. Like a big difference, and like uh to put your finger on like the thing that differentiates like moonboard from like tension, I think for me is the lack of footholds, designated footholds in the main board. Like the fact that on moon and kilter, pretty much every hold on the board above the kickboard you can grab pretty easily. They're all good. Means that when you set hard climbs, tracking is like what you do. And that means that you're jumping like to make it hard because there's no designated footholds that are like bad. You're jumping from good hold to good hold, and then because any foothold would be a hand, you then hand foot match, and then you're in a position where like your hand foot matched, and then you spring out of it. And that is like so many of the hard climbs. Like if I go through all of the 2016 benchmarks, like you're like always hand foot matching and then jumping off a crimp, or like you release your hand, one arm the crimp, and then jump, things like that. And I think that's for me. I don't like that as much unless I'm feeling like I said, like I want to like basically campus and hangboard, which sometimes I do. Uh, and then I go and moonboard or kilterboard. For me, it's like more fun when the footholds are so bad you can't grab them, and then they're bad feet. Like on the tension board, you don't grab your feet as much. You kind of just stand on the footholds and grab the handholds. So
Ben,
I like that
I
the most.
I gotta ask you, just something came to mind. I remember you doing a video on the moon board when all of the new hard ones came out, and you did really well.
Yeah,
Moonboard
And
gone
thanks,
then
man.
soft.
he really did. Yeah,
Moonboard
Moonboard
gone
That's the
Gone
name
soft.
of the
Soft.
video.
Great name, great name.
Clickbait.
If if I remember correctly, Hosikli made a comment that perhaps the moonboard that you were on was not appropriately spaced, and he maybe was poking a little jab at you that maybe it was your moonboard that had gone soft, not just the climb. So
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
came of that, whatever came of that.
Thanks for bringing this up. Hosek Lee and I, mortal enemies, Hosek. It's not my board. It's you. It's your climbs. I'm sorry I'm not short. No, I'm sorry, Hosek. I don't mean that. But I will say I should go measure it. Basically, I did a bunch of climbing. He commented and was like, "Yo, like I'm looking at the left side of your moonboard." I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember what he said. Like, "Yo, I'm looking at the left side of your moonboard, and like that yellow hold looks a little closer to that one hold than it should. About zero point 0.1 centimeters." This is a common, and I respect him. I like his stuff, but it does seem extremely difficult, borderline impossible, to tell like less than a centimeter on a video where he doesn't know my proportions. But I mean, I should measure it. I haven't done that. I forget every time. But yeah, I appreciate the comment from him, and it was good because it got a lot of likes and stuff. So all publicity is good publicity. But nothing ever came of that. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'm not sure. I'm skeptical, is what I'll say.
Grudge match 20,
Yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah,
2025.
I'm calling you out. Come to America. Come to America. Noah and
Oh
I will
yes,
battle you. We're gonna try to
another competition.
yeah, we're gonna try to like battle for the moon board.
Another board
Yeah,
competition.
Well, I think
and then we'll figure it out.
I think the way to do it is you guys need to meet in the middle in the UK at the Moonboard
The
Oh,
Moon
headquarters.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because then he can't be like this moonboard
True.
soft.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the one. Yeah.
I will say that there's so much variation on the Moonboard that it's hard to compare. And you know, I do think that you have to be in person, because I remember on my first Moonboard set, there was some. I was on the 2019 set. There's some V10. It was the most done V10. It was called Lock Guard, and it kind of revolved around a small right hand yellow and a really far out left foot. And I was just like, I
Yeah.
can't freaking do that. I did like so many other climbs. I do it, and then I found out later that there were different sizes in holds, and I compared my yellow to my buddies. And I was like, dude, yours is a bucket. Like, this is even a crimp. And I
Yeah.
just, and it like
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
everything.
That might make a
So-
bigger difference.
No,
than
that is the real thing.
Spacing.
Yeah.
Like,
The real thing people don't want to acknowledge is like whether or not Hosek is right. Like it is like at a certain point with all the boards, like we're just assuming like you just have to pretend we're all climbing on the same climbs, because the moment you start traveling to climb, you very quickly realize that we are not climbing on the same climbs. Some people are doing I burnt off Magos, and their right hand is a bucket that you can stick your fingers 3 pads inside. And some people, it's just enough that you can't put any of your fingers in, and then you're doing like a V12 instead of a V9. Like it's
dude,
not
even
the same.
Kilterboard,
Yeah,
like the
you
difference
just have to
in
pretend.
it's not the holds themselves, but the difference in brushing on Kilterboard. I feel like in Europe or Germany, especially, I feel like they're like really intense on brushing the boards there. From what I've seen, like over here, I've gone to like one gym with a well brushed board. Like it makes like a multiple grade difference sometimes. Just how much people brush their gym board. It's insane.
I mean, I hope that we move closer and closer towards things being more, you know, equal, or what's the word I'm looking for, comparable. But I also think that this is why it would be good to have like what board it was climbed on, just so that of course each board will always have a flavor. And it makes me think of outdoors, like, you know, you see someone do, I don't know, some slopey problem, I can't come up with anything off the top of my head, and they do it in January, and then someone does it in like July, and you're like, whoa, that was way more impressive when it was 85 degrees out than when it was 35 degrees. And I think that that's like fun, you know, like I want it to be like where it's close enough that like you can appreciate those nuances. You're like, oh, you did it on that board. That board's notoriously hard, versus just well, who knows? Like, who knows what you would crap at? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it should
No,
not be three
I will
grades
say
different.
one of the advantages is that my ego is greatly protected by this fact. Because anytime I
It
go into
must
a
be
gym and I'm
soft.
like, oh, like I'm not weak. Like this board is just hard and y'all are on a soft board.
Yeah.
Like it's not me, you know. And then I just write it off and I'm having
Dude,
a great day, you know.
we found the conditions excuse for boards instead of outdoors.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's always an excuse.
Mm.
Always an excuse.
Okay, I gotta just touch on grading one more time because you were saying about I burnt off Magos and the V12 versus V9, all this stuff, and I've been watching your guys' videos, and I see you consistently. I see both of you consistently flash V12 on, we'll say, the tension board. That's where I've seen the most of your content. Actually, we can say Kilter board too,
Mm.
and the moon board. You flash V12 consistently, and then you said, okay, and now there's a V13 that's like, what's the hardest one you've done? Oh, maybe it's even just this V12 or this V13. And I just want to know if the classic thing to say is like you flash 2 grades below your max. That's just kind of like a classic rule of thumb. But I have not seen you guys, I've never seen a V14 on your guys' videos on a board. Like, what does that mean? Like, doesn't that seem ridiculous to you? And maybe actually, I want to start with Noah because you did that Spray Lords video at Tension, and you did it with Zach and Burke, Zach Gall and Ben Burke. I can't
Burkhalter?
remember how to say his
Ben
whole
Burkhalter.
last name.
Yeah.
Burkhalter, yeah. And I believe that you guys called one of those climbs V14, maybe both V14. There was one on the mirror and
Hmm.
one on the spray wall. Like where are these V14s, V15s, even on like the TB2? Because I think that's more suited to really hard climbing. Is it like a joke that there's a ceiling there? Like, have you climbed V15 on the TB2,
No.
Noah?
I would say I haven't. And I would say I don't think anyone has climbed V15 on the TB2, but I think it is possible. And I think the climb that we were trying on spray, we thought, well, Burke thought it might be V16 at first. And all the moves went. I think we decided it's probably like 15 in difficulty, but it goes. Like it's definitely doable. I do think there's a sense. I also climb this way on board, but a lot of people enjoy like flashing stuff on the board. And there's a lot of like I think people will be more inclined to just try climbs that are more in their style or a little bit easier than they could be trying, because they want to do it quick. Uh, I don't think people like there hasn't I don't there hasn't been a huge collective community effort to like try to FA or try to do a V15. Like many strong board climbers trying it. It's usually just like, oh yeah, this guy like did this V12 like third or fourth try, and then a bunch of people will try it and someone will flash it. But it's on the TB2. It's definitely doable. Like a V15 is definitely doable. And that spray 15 it had nuance. Like it had I think some of the technical nuance and footwork that you would find in like at least a 14. Um, it's just a matter of culture. I think I've done a 14 on the board.
That is a
So
great
I think
question.
jellyfish
Yeah.
might be a 14 outside, depending on the board. Maybe, but that's not very common either, right?
Yeah, that's that. Honestly, now that you bring it up, it doesn't really make any sense. Like almost all of the best climbers climb on the boards, and they all climb V14 pretty easily. So what are we doing? I mean, there are a few. Like, there's
Oh,
Migos.
you're right.
It's like Migos with an I, TB2 or on TB1. That's V14 from Matt Foltz. There's also Jaded, which is a V14 on the TB2 from Matt Foltz. I guess it's just Matt. Thanks, Matt.
It
But
just says more
he's so
so.
huge that
Yeah.
everyone everyone pulls up his climbs and is like, "Fuck, I can't span this," and then we write it
There's a
off.
culture
But
of like,
What
yeah,
is his
oh,
ape?
what do you think?
6'6" or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Because you
I
guys
think
are
I can
not short.
span his climbs. No, can probably span them. I just don't
I mean,
try
people
them. I guess
also
I
like.
should,
I don't think
but I don't
anyone who climbs
know.
boards consistently at the higher grades will say that there's like consistent grading at all. Like it's kind of no one takes it super seriously. I would hope. Like like there's kind of a joke that like you're not allowed to set harder than V13 or like grade harder than V13 on the Coach Award. That's just like the board culture. Like
That's another, yeah, yeah. No, it is also a joke. Yeah, like Yannick or whatever. Like if you talk to him, he's like, oh yeah, like obviously not giving this V14 doesn't
yeah,
exist, and he's just being like German. So
just being
there's only weakness.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in this because and it's interesting talking to you guys again because of you're kind of that some of the young bloods that are pushing the limits on the boards. Where this is classic, where there's some arbitrary ceiling. It could be like Yosemite 5.9 was like is famous. Like there'll be 5.9s in Yosemite where they're like 10C or something, or like even harder. You're just like, yeah, we don't give 5.10. It's not a thing. And I wonder what's going to change. So actually that brings me to my next question for you guys is, um, Ben, what do you think the future of board climbing looks like? If you had to crystal ball out 5 years, do you think how do you think things are going to change from today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. I think the biggest thing with boards right now is that they're like you go on a kilter board or a tension board and it'll say like you'll like do the filter and it'll say like 5,000 climbs between V9 and V12 at this angle, and then you scroll through them and 95% of them have one ascent. Half of them are trolls like that are fake climbs or every hold on the board is lit up, and the grades make no sense. And I think like the biggest thing that's going to happen with boards, because I've talked to the tension guys a little bit about this, is like classics or benchmarks or whatever you call them. Those will become like way even bigger of a thing. Like tension, I think, is planning to make even more, and I think as it goes on, like you'll just have groups. They'll probably make. All right, here are my predictions. If you become popular enough, cool enough, sexy enough on a board, the board company will hit you up and be like, "Hey, can you moderate for us?" Because Moonboard, I think, has done that with like Hosek Lee or Ravioli. Um, that'll become a huge thing. There'll be lots of those people. And these people will be like dedicated board climbers, mainly board climbers. They'll know the grades on the board really well. They'll like talk to Tension or Moon and they'll tell them what they're looking for at each grade. And then there'll be like hundreds or thousands of classics or benchmarks. And those will be the only thing people climb. And that'll get rid of like all the trolling and like the fake grades and like all that. And it'll make boards a lot more accessible, like for everyone, because it's kind of annoying to go on and have to sort through like a billion fake climbs. Secondly, I think you're right about I think the V13 joke will end very soon. I think a lot of the World Cup guys are like starting to get more into board climbing. A few that like we've talked to, and like they are gonna like push it, and then like eventually Tension is gonna like classic a V14 for sure, probably soon, and then that'll like break it, and people will start repeating it, and then it'll become a big thing. And like I bet within 5 years there'll be like benchmarked or classic V15 will be the max probably in 5 years, and there'll be like several 13s and 14s. And then I also think the Instagram board community is gonna like explode. Like there's like already it's like getting kind of big, and there's lots of like group chats I'm in that are just like 20 like psyched people, and all they talk about is board climbing, and it just seems like it's growing. Like every day a new account follows me that's called like Joshua climbs board, and like there's so many of them, and there's just gonna be a whole
Dude, that's
multiverse
definitely
of
an
Joshua
actual
climb
board account.
boards. And and it'll separate. Yeah, shout out
The
Joshua
guy's so
climbs
happy
board. I
right
know you're
now.
out there. I don't know who you are. But yeah, I think it'll become more of its own discipline of climbing. And
Oh
board
yeah.
comps are on the up. Every year, there's more and more board comps in real life, and that whole community, it's going to become its own discipline. And yeah, I think it'll be cool. I'm excited.
That was really interesting. That was really cool. I think you are picking out the trends really perfectly. My only thing is, I bet you in 5 years there's benchmark or classics V16. I would say. I think in five
Wow.
years
All
we'll
right.
see even harder.
Really.
So no,
I
anything
feel like you said
to add to that?
everything
I thought,
pretty much,
yeah, that was
honestly.
pretty good. Yeah, yeah, that was good, man. I'm excited. I do like the Instagram. Yeah, I've got a board account I think I need to change the name because it's called the.
You do? Is it Josh
No,
Oh,
no, that's why I thought you were talking about me for a second. But maybe before I air this, I will go and try to snag that so I can be the one. No, it's the barn board because I had built
oh,
a
nice.
board in my barn, and it's mainly more moon, but now it's a lot of TB2. Okay, that was
Yeah,
sick. That was really fun. Thanks for going deep with me on boards. I freaking love them, and I really
Me
appreciate
too.
that. Uh, on that idea of the future, you guys have both had just a meteoric rise in the past couple of years. Although, Jesus, no, I can't believe you climbed V14 in 3 months after going outdoors. And we talked earlier about how strength is a factor. It's maybe a ceiling, and so it's why it's so important to be strong. And you guys both seem to have really high levels of strength, as demonstrated by your abilities on the board and on the rock. And so I'm curious, Noah. You've done some high profile ascents recently. It's clear that you are enjoying outdoors, and you're still young. Both of you guys are young. What's your thoughts on the future of your climbing? What were you inspired by? Do you have is it going to be more outdoor focused? Just what is the 5 year? What does Noah Wheeler look like in 5 years?
I don't know what I look like in 5 years, but I know my goals ever since climbing outdoors and doing boards simultaneously has always been um like to do like to do boards in order to climb outdoors. So my goal is like to climb the hardest stuff I possibly can outdoors. Um, I mean, ideally, I didn't think V17 would ever be possible for me, but um, ideally in 5 years, I would want to have done like return or something, and then be trying other stuff. Try to.
Seems
We'll see. We'll see
seems
how we go
likely.
back.
I agree. It seems very likely. I've heard. I know people watching you on Return. They thought, yeah, Return the Sleepwalker.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Oh, I would I
go
would
on.
like
Sorry to
to.
interrupt
I
you.
know there's a lot of like. I feel like we're one of the first, like whatever generation I'm in, and like say like Ben Burke or like Zach Al, who's a bit above me. Like, a lot of like the ones who are climbing like 15 outdoors right now around our age are like repeating a lot of stuff. And I know like the generation before, like Daniel and Jimmy, like a lot of being an outdoor professional or like semi-professional was putting up a lot of inspiring and cool stuff. And I think in the next, or like within, like maybe in 5 years or something like that, like people around my age will be putting up more hard stuff. I would hope, even if everything hasn't been cleared out. Like there's a lot to be said for, um, developing and first ascending. So I would want to focus more on like putting up stuff in the medium future, I guess, or long future. And then obviously board climbing,
Well,
I still want to continue, and it's really fun to make content on, and it's really good for training. So like it's just a perfect combination. It's like really entertaining. It's fun to edit, and uh, it's really good training. So simultaneously,
yeah, I love the content you guys put out on. Again, Wheel Rock YouTube channel. Let me ask one more little question on there. About hard climbing and your future. It's when I look at some of the climbs you've done. There's Jade and Sleepwalker and Defying Gravity, especially Defying Gravity. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm just wondering about what are some of your dream boulders, and what's the through line there? And it doesn't have to be aesthetics. You could just be really really psyched on super super hard climbing, but what ties the boulders that you're looking to do together? What's your vision of achievement there? Is it just difficulty, just movement quality? Is it some kind of look, some kind of style?
yeah.
What are you really
Personally,
attracted to?
uh I'm like attracted to movement as number one. I know it's sort of it's not like you can't really grade a climb uh in like how good it is based on its movement. But Like that's definitely my, or like I know like Air Jerome doesn't account for movement in his list, but uh,
He's not
but
here. Don't listen to
that's
that
like
guy.
the only thing I really care about. Like if the movement's fun, really, like if it's unique, if it makes you like use your body in a different way, in a like unique way, and if it's just if it feels good or cool, that really matters like the most to me, honestly, more than anything else, because I'm the one feeling the wall. I'm not like I'm only looking at a portion of the wall when I'm climbing on it. I'm feeling it mostly. So that's most important. And so like off the wagon, I think uh the movement looks sick. That's a dream boulder if you want like an example. It's also like in style, and I think there's something to be said for like a dream boulder being you pushing your style to the max or very difficult. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm going to toss it to you, Ben, but I just want one comment there, which I think it is like I'm more aesthetics driven, and I'm not saying that's the right way to be. I always think that it's just, what do you like? And it doesn't totally surprise me that you are psyched on movement. Coming from, I mean, clearly I'm psyched on movement too. I freaking love boards. They're just these random pieces of plywood in my garage. It's not like they are the most aesthetic thing. And I love trying hard and movement, but I do find it's not totally surprising. And it's interesting. I've spoke earlier about this, like this pendulum swinging. There was like when bouldering first came around, it was like this joke, and it was definitely not about aesthetics. Like if you look at like Fred Nicole and the lines he put up, I mean, there is
Mhm.
Dreamtime and stuff like that, but there was just this love of like hard movement, hard crimping, the limits of potential. And then you saw, a different kind of era that, and high balls really were, or maybe still are in vogue, like those really tall striking lines. You think of Keenan as having, I mean, actually all those guys, Keenan and Daniel, they all have these visions of these beautiful climbs. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back towards super hardcore actual difficulty that could
Mhm.
be low to the ground, it could be high to the ground. That's not the point. It's about like the limits of potential, or the limits of human potential. And yeah, and the how it feels. I love that. So good stuff. What about you, Ben? What's your medium future look like? Do you have big goals? What's your vision in climbing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to say I like what you guys are saying about the movement, and I think there's some kind of elitism in the climbing community about like
Mhm.
going after aesthetics and king lines, which is honestly like I totally get that. Like that's sick. But I don't think we need to like, I don't know. I think there's elitism where people look down on people who like go and try shitty. Well, hey, they're not shitty.
Movement.
They're just movement
That's a
based,
good
and
rebranding.
that's
We
what we
should.
need to
That's a good
acknowledge.
rebranding.
Look at me,
No more shitty.
Terra Nova. That's
Policy
that's
isn't
a
a
it's a
thing.
movement based king line. I mean, look at that
All
movement.
movement.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. But anyways, my future. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think like where my climbing is at right now is I don't know. I don't think I've fully like gotten a chance or like I haven't fully like delved into like outdoor hard projecting as much as I could. And like that's I think I'm starting to like feel like I'm strong enough and like ready to like really start like trying things like committedly with good tactics and like try and see how hard I'm actually climbing because I don't really know. Like a lot of my outdoor sessions are just like I go out like wherever people are going and like try whatever they're trying and like stuff like that, which is a lot of fun and like that's why I do it. But like I am excited to like try and climb the hardest things I can climb because I'm curious. I have no idea. And then yeah, like most of my psych for outdoor climbing is about specific like dream climbs that I just want to do. Like off the wagon is like a huge like yeah, like when I'm in Colorado or whatever, if I don't like, I'm not like trying to climb the hardest thing I can climb because I'm thinking about like certain specific climbs elsewhere and just trying to like make sure I'm strong enough to do them. So I want to like travel and go to all these places and like try. Like for me, maybe the most exciting moments in all of my climbing are like when I finally get to a climb that I've just been like thinking about and like obsessing about, and I get to touch it. Like not even trying it, like I get to like feel it and see it. and that's just like the best thing. So I just want to go and like get the chance to like travel and like touch all these climbs. Like we're going to Switzerland in the winter, and I'm so excited to try off the wagon. Like that's, oh, I'm just going to be doing one arm right hands for like months. God, my right hand is going to be so much stronger than my left.
Name a couple of those other iconic lines that you've been dreaming about. Off the wagon. I don't know where you got that in your head, but for me, it was seeing Sharma, and I can't, was that dosage? I can't remember
Yeah, I
which
think it was
one.
Yeah, I think that
doses.
was. I think that's dosage. Yeah, where he like, dude, he like, yeah, that is the cool. He doesn't even do it, and that's the most memorable off the wagon. Like, dude, yeah, he didn't. He just like his hand, it like zooms in and he like hits the wall like right before the slot. Oh, it's so sick. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, okay, off the wagon is huge for me. I think honestly, burden is like it's not even I really have no idea if I'll ever be able to do burden. It's impossible for me to tell, but like I'm gonna touch it for sure. Like I've watched the amount of hours of footage I've watched of burden. Like I have to go touch it. No way I can just watch all that footage for my life. You're like, you know. So I need to go to that. Um, I went to Sky. That was awesome. Sky was one of those for me. Just like the style of it, like those kind of moves are just oh my god. And the orange, yeah, or like El Corazon, they just like stick out. Um, I want to. I've never been to Bishop, and Lucid Dreaming is another one where like I don't think I'll like it, but it's like oh my god, I have to touch the pinch. That's like the hold. Like it's crazy. Honestly, the Swarm. I just really like the way that second move looks. Like I really like. I don't know what the hold is, but like it just looks the way people hit that second hold and like the way they like pull their body in really like tight makes me very curious about what they're holding onto. So I want to try that. And then Spectre, those two in Bishop are like classic. Um, honestly, Poison the Well,
So
that
good.
looks really good. I want to try that really, really badly. And then final one, Floatin'. Just a crazy move. I can't believe that exists, and like I'm so curious what that is.
You guys, all those climbs just sound amazing. What's hilarious, they all sound very aesthetic, along with having cool movement. So,
Sweet.
no comment there. I do,
That's
Ben. I actually really
yeah.
like that you. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Go
no.
ahead.
I'm as much as I don't like the elitism. I would say I'm into the aesthetics, uh, but a very certain aesthetic. I like when there's like few holes on the wall, like the
Mm,
blank wall
yeah.
look. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I want to just steel man Eric Jerome and
Okay.
Jamie Emerson too. I think when the star rating came along, what happened is this idea that if you judge a problem on that subjective experience of movement, like let's say you have some like okay. What's that thing? I think it's called Skeleton Key or some, no or Master. I don't know. There's some climb in Joe's Valley that has this like that like gasto cling and then you like rock into there's like a
Oh, that's
V11. I don't
Gentleman's
know. There
Project.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gentleman's Project. Why do I always say skeleton? Anyways, I haven't even seen it, haven't even tried it, but my right shoulder is pretty fucked up and I will not do that climb because that's just like I'm going to hurt myself. And so to take like that doesn't mean it's not like a sick movement that is really unique and interesting, but for me I'd be like fuck this climb, it's stupid. Like I hate it. I'm going to hurt myself. And so trying to take that subjectivity out of what
uh-huh.
makes a climb good, I think is where their star rating comes from. Not saying I
Yeah.
agree with all. I'm just steel manning it, and this idea that there is some elitism around the aesthetics and like the king lines. You're totally right, and I'm totally guilty of it too. And I guess I just it comes from this. It comes from the the great like so you ever see someone break into a new grade and the climb that they broke into the new grade is like just the dumpiest, softest climb of that grade ever? And that's fine because sometimes that just happens. You're like in that area, you just do it. But when you see someone who's always like chasing that, you start being
Mm.
like, well, when I look at your scorecard, I look at what you chase the ones that are like clearly you're just chasing a grade, doing it in a way that's super not there for some kind of big experience that is requesting something special out of you. You're trying to like bring it to the lowest possible barrier, no fear,
Yeah.
your style, really soft.
Yeah,
And that's how you always are progressing. But then there's an argument I could make for that too. So, anyways, I'm
yeah.
just trying to steal
I would say
Microsoft.
I think for the objective argument, it makes perfect sense in terms of if you're going to make an objective ranking of the quality of climbs. However, I don't think that has almost any implication on what a climber ought do, what a climber ought try, because climbing is a subjective experience. It's not like you're not supposed to reject the subjective aspect of climbing because you're climbing for yourself. It's an individual endeavor, which is why I think movement is important regardless of whether it's supposed to be included in ranking. But I do agree that if you're going to rank something, it's good to be objective about it. So I think
It
they can
just, yeah.
coexist.
Eric's list is crazy how culturally relevant that is in climbing. Like that's like Eric is a great guy and an amazing climber. And I swear like most of what people talk about is his list.
It's a good thing. It's a nice topic.
Well,
I love his list. Yeah.
yeah, I think you said it really well. No, I really like that. That's like we're even talking about taking the subjectivity out of climbing. Like that's all we're doing anyway. So why are we trying to remove that? I think that's really insightful. Okay, you guys. Let me see. I do want to talk a little bit about YouTube and media and content because I love your guys' YouTube. It's board climbing. I can relate. It does make me want to go and try these climbs, and it's really fun seeing you guys climb with other amazing climbers. Sometimes I haven't heard of them, or sometimes they're with Daniel Woods, and I guess you said something about how board climbing begets good content, easy content. And I'm just kind of curious what you guys are doing with your YouTube and why you've leaned into it and what your goals are there.
Yeah. Well, it started because I just enjoyed editing like videos of us climbing outside together, and then I was like, I do so much board climbing, and I feel like it's an aspect of my climbing that I don't need to make it public, but it would be interesting if I did. And then like it's I guess it's an easy format or it's an obvious format for me to translate um towards the public, I guess. And yeah, I guess that's how it started, and then uh, it just really I think it shows like I think like videoing the session, like obviously I think people enjoy watching uh what I would hope is like impressive and and cool. But then also a huge part of it, I think Ben would especially labor this point, is that it's like um we try to like just like display what a session with us is like, particularly towards like humor and just the the sense of like this, just the sense of like the vibe during the session. Like I mean Ben's a very funny guy. And we always have a good time when we're climbing with like even like Daniel or like Jacob and Matt. Like it's so fun to just like I mean it's so fun to have a nice session on the board with friends and like joke around, and it's fun to like make that into entertaining content. That's the part that uh I would hope to try to personify Wheel Rock through partly like portraying what it's like being just in a normal training session on the board. Uh, do you have more to say about that then? But
Yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna say like, yeah, the YouTube thing, it's part of it is like it's kind of just a fun, like I was saying, like when I discovered outdoor climbing, like it was like discovering climbing all again. And it's not, YouTube is not like discovering climbing all again because it's things I've been doing. You're just like, but it is a new aspect of it. Like I do get to interact with climbing in a new way, like through editing and through like talking to the YouTube commenters and stuff like that. And like another like the community, it's like
yeah,
it's really fun. I
yeah, talk
like
about that.
we have a very specific like we get a lot of views for climbing, I guess, but like our audience who like communicates with us, and even if we look at the demographics of viewers and stuff, it's a very specific audience.
You have
Uh,
nerds. We have like
Yeah, and
climber video
this
game
is
nerds.
yeah.
That's
It,
our
it it
audience.
feels it feels like it doesn't feel like I'm like making content for like people and I'm like catering it to them. It feels like our community on YouTube is like a bunch of me's. Like there's like they're 99% male, not good. We're trying to up that. We do not support that.
Yeah,
However, I identify as male, so it's like, and they're young and they like comment really immature things about like they're always talking about like erections in the comments. I don't know if you saw that.
dude, we will
Uh,
never escape the
No, I
rock
missed
hard
that one.
comments.
dude, yeah, we all the comments on all of our videos are like it just says like I'm rock hard or like rock hard watching this,
It's
and
3 a.m. and
it's
I'm
not that
yeah.
not that I support like that kind of erection behavior amongst our audience, but it is kind of something I think is funny. So it's
It's
nice to
unique.
be able
It's
to like
unique.
it's unique. And it's nice to be able to communicate with a group of like young climbers who are like me and like psyched on the same things because I like love watching YouTube. I watch every climbing video. So it's just like nice to contribute to that and be part of that. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, there's nothing wrong with appealing to a specific audience. You got any way you get it up is the right way, and
Get it up. Yeah.
I I really enjoy the content. I will echo that kind of vibe mentality of like this is a fun session, and that's really like I love climbing with people and with friends, and I talked about this with the tension crew when I did a pod with them that a lot of a lot of my attraction to board climbing is that there's an interaction there. And I've told the story where how I got into board climbing was actually during COVID too, where I'd climbed on a board like, or, like a system board with lights and all the apps and everything, just maybe like a few times. And I was more spray wall oriented. But then during COVID, I was by myself out in the country and I built a board in my barn, and then all my buddies were on the moon board, and then that whole crew I would post my climbs, and I became friends with like the DeWolf brother, just all the people that because I climbed their climbs and I tagged them and be
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
this was sick, dude,
Yeah.
like
Oh
great
yeah,
work. And I
it's
love that.
great.
And so I
Yeah.
think you guys capture something about that. It's like that's what those sessions are like with your friends, and then that ability to see those climbs and see how you guys perform on whatever climb and then get to pull it up myself when I'm on a session next. I love it, man. Keep it up.
Yeah,
i
yeah.
i I
I
really
yeah,
enjoy them.
I the community aspect of boards is definitely the biggest like sell. Like at our SEC in Colorado Springs where we go to college, like there's a spray board app, Retro Flash or something. And like people like the amount of like when we're not at the gym, like I'll like look over at my friend's phone in like the middle of class and I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what he's doing." And he's setting climbs like mid and it's like it's so a part of our community and like we like the names and like there's circuits and it's a good time. Yeah.
I feel like naming is underrated and you need to put good
For
effort
sure.
into names. They're
Yeah.
important.
Oh
It's
yeah.
I think like Black Beauty, I mean it's like a lucid dreaming trainer, but that like that alliteration, it just it's always stuck in my like Black Beauty. You're just
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
it's those black holes and it's just iconic. Oh, good stuff, you guys. Okay, one comment or one suggestion, since you guys are making such good content, is I recently Starlink just came out with this dish that you can that's portable, so it's like a satellite internet
Hmm.
connection, and I want to see more live streaming of sessions. And I thought
Oh.
this now allows you to take it to the boulders, so you could have seen. I mean, I know like Jakob Schubert did Project Big or whatever BIG, like live, and that was a high production thing. But now you guys could live stream your sessions when you're up in the park, and so I'm just putting that out there, just putting it out there. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I want
Twitch.
someone to do it.
Yeah.
I've been, yeah, I've been floating this idea to some of the people. Like I was like, in fact, some of the mellow guys. I was like, dude, you could do Twitch for mellow, like
Yeah.
badass climbers doing their session. Anyways,
Yeah. Wait, I don't know.
okay, well,
Sorry, wait.
go
This
ahead.
maybe this is off podcast. I don't know if this is chill to talk about, but I'm curious. The mellow guys, they give off this vibe, even in person, of like they really do not care about their YouTube at all. Like they kind of just do it, and like they love climbing and like they're chill, but like they just put out videos and like. But are they like? Do they are they? Is that the vibe that they go for, like the chill vibe, or do they care about YouTube? Is my question.
I cannot speak for them. I do not
Okay.
know them well enough to say what their goals are. Uh, I but I mean there could just to throw random things out into the world. I I I do think that there is an element of just trying to give themselves some longevity in the sport, like money wise, outside of just climbing climbs and being focused on being sponsored. And I know that they have some plans. I know there's some cool stuff in the pipeline. Um, I think they do care. I just think that it probably is secondary
Yeah,
to
yeah,
their
yeah.
love
Like
of
they're not
climbing. And
content
so
creators.
yeah,
They just post their climbing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see.
yeah, and you know to their credit, perhaps that's an appropriate role to take if their goal is to do it more as a business. Is they're not like, oh, like I need to just make sick content. They're like, no, we're a brand, and this is a way for us to establish ourselves in the community, to add to the community, and potentially grow it in different ways. I think they maybe have some aspirations outside of just sharing content. But again, I do not. I've never spoken with any of them directly about Mello. I'm just guessing as to what they might be doing, and I still love Mello. I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
it's
No,
out
me
there.
too. It
Oh, he's
changed.
the
It's like
best.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Except for Wheel Rock, it's second best.
yeah,
I
yeah. Up
So
until like
don't know.
last
I don't know
year.
about that quite
Yeah,
yet.
right. Once
We haven't made
once we
lucid
posted that.
dreaming. We haven't made Jimmy on lucid dreaming type content yet.
Hey, hey,
That's top tier.
you don't think Moonboard Gone Soft is as good as Jamie Webb Lucid Dreaming? Come on.
oof. I personally I would click on Moonboard Gone Soft first. That one that really got me.
Dude,
That
see,
baited me
he's our
right
Yes,
in.
audience. This is
yes.
our demographic.
I am you guys. I'm rock hard right now. Uh,
He's the one who's been
cameras
commenting
chest
all this
up.
stuff.
We found him.
uh,
He's the one who got banned from Wawa.
okay.
Anyways, yeah.
Well, on that extremely important note, you guys, I asked this to everyone, and it's an important question. It's we're going back to being serious. Um, no, we'll start with you. You really have made that shift from what I call good to great. And I always hesitate to put grades on this. But after I had a conversation with Alex Johnson, and when I said good to great, she basically thought of it as the difference between like a NBA player and then Michael Jordan. And so I want to clarify that when I say good to great, I mean someone that's pretty darn good at climbing. I feel like there's some plateau around someone who's committed themselves for maybe even a decade and they're really good. And then there's this next level. And I think you I don't think I know you have made that leap into being one of the better climbers out there right now. And what do you think it means to go from good to great? Maybe how did you do it, or how do you think other people can follow in your footsteps?
Well, thank you. I think, well, I think a tip I would give that I've like ever since I moved to college and I feel like I leveled up outside. Like one thing I've consistently done has been to set like intentionally uncomfortable and awkward moves for me. And that's not just like anti-style. It's like that's like actually uncomfortable. Like what some people would call bad moves. Like moves that I'll set climbs on the springboard that people won't try because they're like this just doesn't feel good. Like why are you setting this uncomfortable weird thing? Um and I'll intentionally set that because I think that's what the leap from say 13 to 14 or even 12 to 13 is. Like it's just being uncomfortable. It's like weird hand positions, like awkward feeling like foot positions or weird toe hooks or like like awkwardly high heels. Like it's just like outdoors does not care about how good your body feels on the wall. Like it like I think it's just so important to like intentionally go out of your comfort zone when you're training for outdoors like indoors, you know. So that'll be my biggest tip, I think. And that's the one thing if I were to give myself credit for anything in training, which I don't think I'm definitely not an expert at training. I think it's trying to set climbs that challenge me um, in terms of comfort, you know.
That's dude, that's really good. And I definitely feel seen, and I don't like it where I typically like to climb things that are comfy and really hard. Like I want my holds to face the right way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's like, oh, I'd rather be going to a side pull, you know, when you are doing those moves that are crazy Gaston's full span, like, well, what if you just made it a side pull? That'd be so much more comfortable. So that's that's really interesting. Ben, what about you? What do you think about good to great?
Yeah. I think for me, like personally, which is all I can speak to, because I'm also not an expert in training for climbing. Good to great for me was about who I'm climbing with, like 100%. Like a lot of times, I don't think it comes off that way in the videos that we make or like when I talk to people or climb with people, but a lot of times I'm like climbing with Noah and like we go and we climb with people who I view as like much better than me. Like a lot of the sessions that I climb in, I feel like I'm the worst climber and like I'm a little self-conscious and I think like, oh, like I shouldn't really be here. Like I don't climb as hard as Daniel Woods, or Noah. And it's like, you know, but it's like that is what you need to be doing. Like I think you need to feel like you only have things to learn. And like it's not about whether I'm as good as them. It's about like what I am doing that's different than them. And like what is like there's infinite number of things that I've like learned from like only a few sessions of climbing with like the best climbers in the world. And they all have like their own like unique things. And I think that's like the number one thing you need to do is just put yourself out there. And no matter how intimidated you are or how self conscious you are, is like you're good enough to climb with anyone because it doesn't matter how good you are. Like go and climb with them. Like, put yourself out there. But no matter what level you're at, like there's someone better. And like, I mean, like just in that video with Daniel, like we were only there to like have fun and test out the new board, but like he just like teaches you things because he's been climbing for so long.
Yeah.
Like Noah, like yeah, I don't know, like he weights his feet in a different way than everyone else. Like, and all those pros, like they have very specific things that you can learn from them. And like, if you're not climbing at a high, like you don't need to climb with pros. If you're climbing like V9, climb with someone who climbs V12, and like you'll learn like many many things. So yeah, that's it. Just put yourself out there. Like go out there and meet strong people, climb with them, like make friends, and you'll learn things.
Damn, that's really good, man. I got asked because you guys have climbed with some really incredible people on the boards. Which the reason why that's also a interesting thing is to put doing it in that context that you're both so familiar with. Sometimes lets you take away things that you, if you're really outside your comfort zone, maybe you didn't even notice.
Hmm.
So maybe Noah, I'll just ask about Daniel Woods just because he's Daniel Woods. But yeah, what did you learn from climbing with him on the Woods
Yeah,
board?
I feel like I had a very good takeaway from the session where like there would be some climbs, especially on the woods board. There's a lot of climbs where um it's like a really crimpy left hand like full crimp and like medium to far, say like let's say right foot that you have to like pressure in order to like pull up into say like a crimp, right? And if your foot picks, maybe you hit the hole and keep it, but like it's way harder. And I was basically I what I was doing is I was like lurching for it, hitting it, and then like dropping my feet basically every time on these types of moves. And Daniel, he climbed like Daniel, like he just like locks off, like really gets that tension in his right, yeah, let's say right foot, really like pulls into the wall and like he does it very statically. And it looks, I mean, he's not crimping as hard, like he's doing it better. And like I actually asked him like how he is towing in the wall so well. And he came up to the move and like he would like show me like the way that you like basically he said basically lever down, keeping your whole leg engaged, right? And like also apply like way more pressure than what I was. And like it helped like I tried what he was saying, which is like yeah, like apply more pressure and keep your like toes bent but your leg engaged the whole way. And it helped like a ton on these moves. And I was like I'm gonna when I come like when I go back to like SEC, like my home gym, I'm gonna train this like this way of like towing in like a lot, like every session. It's like kind of like a lot of people know that like you're supposed to do this, like keep your leg engaged, like toe in really hard. But like when you see like the best climber at that style like do it, or he tells you how to do it, it's you get like a different, it's like an extra level of insight, you know, because you know for a fact he's doing it like I don't know, like the best anyone's ever done it. I don't know. It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's one of those things about climbing with people who have a different style than you, where you think you know what putting a lot of weight on that foot meant, but then
Yeah.
you see what it really means, and it's a level that's hard to understand. And actually, I didn't push back on this earlier, where you were saying how boards potentially don't have a ton of nuance, where it's like kind of just, hey, like this is where you grab the hold, this is where the foot is,
Mm,
can you do it or not? But my I've 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 tried to push back on this before, where I actually think that there's always infinite nuance, like in anything. It may be less of a delta of if you put your foot just perfectly on, say, defying gravity, or those little nuances just really add up. But there's always nuance, even in board climbing, even when you're all using the same feet. And you can see that sometimes in the best in the world, where he probably was putting a
yeah.
lot more weight on his foot
Just
compared to you. Not
so
just like a
much.
little, but like a lot. What about you, Ben? I mean, it doesn't have to be from Daniel Woods. It could be from Adam Shahar.
Yeah,
Is that how you say his last name?
Adam
God,
Shahar.
let's
Yeah.
only use one arm at a time.
That's
If you did you
No, yeah,
we
I,
uh we were gonna edit the video to be like not to make fun of Adam. Adam and Noah and I were like best friends. We talk all the time. So not to make fun of him, but like I don't know if you could see it in that video. Like there were a couple times where like he just took off his other arm for no reason anyone can explain. And we were gonna make a little counter that's like Adam one arm counter, and he just like takes off his other arm. But then, hey, the next like week he went and did the understanding V15 and took his hand off.
yeah.
So there you go, man. He's a freak in
yeah,
that like
incredible.
the way he climbs is yeah. I mean like for from Daniel. Also, I just want to say I actually will support your pushback. Yeah, boards have there is subtlety. It's just different, and I think that maybe that's even an advantage of them is like outside. There's just so many factors that it's kind of sometimes hard to put your finger on what's happening. But like when we climbed with Daniel on the woods board, it was a good opportunity because you can see more clearly what's happening, I think, like what he's doing differently. Whereas outside, there's like, it could be how he's grabbing the hand, how his conditions, like his skin, like stuff like that. So yeah, there is subtlety in boards. It's just different. Um, but with Daniel, one thing that I took away is with his swings, like it's almost like he doesn't jump. He basically like when he cuts feet, it's not like me or how I feel when like I square up and then I eye up the hold and then I jump and I'm like my feet are gonna come off. I'm gonna snatch this hold. For him, it's like he's gonna get there with his feet on. Like his goal is always like my feet will be on. Like I'm gonna get there, and he gets there every time. And then it's a matter of whether his feet swing off after. Like it's always like he hits the hold with his feet on, and then he has time to pull really in into his shoulders, and then he takes like a really like tight cut, and like that is a really specific skill that I think outside is like crucial. Like if you watch him do defying gravity with his beta, he does cut feet, but it's like he like hits it with his feet on, then pulls really in, and it's like a really tight short swing or like lucid. It's like he does it like it's a very it's hard to describe other than that. Like his intention is always to keep his feet on, and I think that is really advantageous when you take small, like your hands are close together swings like that, which is something I don't ever do. Like if I think I'm gonna cut feet, I'm trying to cut feet, but what I should be doing is try to keep feet on, and then if I do cut feet, then I hold the tiny cut. And there's like a specific the lucid dreaming lucid creaming in that video. Like you can see the difference. Like Noah flashes it. Like Noah flashes it by just like jumping and he just grabs it really quickly and like it's nice. And then Daniel and I
It's
are
nice.
like it's not in the video because it can't be that long, but like in the real session, Daniel and I don't flash it, and we're going back and forth. We're trying it for like another like 7 to 10 attempts, and like what he ends up doing is putting his foot on a high foot that I didn't even think was usable, and he like goes to it really high and he hits it fully bent like this. And what I end up doing is like keeping my feet low, and then I just like yeet to it and grab it like comp kid grip and like straight arm, and I just disengage all the way and ride it. And like I was able to make it work on that move, but if that hold were a different hold, like the lucid hold that you jump to, I would have to do what Daniel did, and that's like a new, like that's something I need to learn to like climb like that. So yeah, that was really interesting. And then Adam is
Hmm.
just, I mean, he's a freak. I don't know. Go watch the video. You'll see.
I don't know if the way he climbs is
Yeah.
actually good to replicate. I think he's just insanely strong. Yeah, maybe for comp.
Yeah. I'll link to both of those. I do. There is something about embracing your style that maybe you shouldn't always keep your feet on, and but there is something I just always remember where I think I was just physically really strong, and I think I have a predisposition towards boards as well, as you did know, where I kind of like jumping and catching, and I think there's a style to that too. Like there's some technique and that dynamic movement of knowing where to jump to versus really taking that right on the swing. But I had some switch in my climbing where I was probably just climbing like V9 or V10, and my feet would cut all over. And then as I started trying more like V11 or V12, I just realized that you just couldn't do that on every
Yeah.
hole. Like if you're going to be on a roof and it's like tiny crimp, like it's like I don't care how strong you are, that would be like
Yeah,
V25. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't even. So you just like so. I think having that mentality of really keeping your feet on, but then I don't know. But then it's knowing when to deviate from that as well. It's I don't know that that's an infinite topic there, but love it, you guys. And one my last little question is going to be the pro tip. Noah,
uh,
do you have
yeah.
a
Mine's
pro
pretty
tip?
simple, I guess. It's just like I think this is mostly for like what I would think would be the wheel rock core audience. Like people who started board climbing at like older teens, early 20s, and got strong pretty quick, but like only board climb. Like really, I mean this for everyone in general, but really warm up for longer than you want to or you think you should. Like there's no harm. I would warm up for at least 30 minutes if I'm like doing like a like probably 45 minutes if I'm doing like a crimpy board session. Like it'll go a long way in preventing inflammation or injury in your fingers in the future. But it also prevent you from having some sort of injury in that exact session. It's just like I think you might be feeling like you're climbing very strong without warming up too much, um, like on the board. But if you spend the time to really get your blood flowing and your fingers feeling good, like you'll feel good like every single session. I think like it's possible. Like really warm up for longer than you have been if you feel like you have been skipping on warm ups a little bit. You know, it's so important, really.
That's that's really good. It's so tempting to not warm up on boards, but it makes me think of what you said, Ben, where boards are kind of like there when you are fresh and ready to go hard. So I have not always followed that. No, I definitely am tempted to just like, especially when it's in my garage and all I have is like the board. It's like, oh, like because you get used to the style and all of a sudden you can just kind of
Yeah.
Yeah,
go hard really quick.
yeah.
But no, good stuff. What about you, Ben? You got a pro tip for us?
Yeah. My pro tip is going to be diversify your grip types as early as you can. There are so many climbers who I know who are like really strong and spec'd all into one grip type, and it works, except I just don't think it's the ideal. Like I think if you like while you can, like every climb you go to, inside or out, you'll find a hold and there will be an ideal way to grip it. There will be an easiest way, like the hold will be shaped a certain way that's how you should grip it. And like most people will not grip it that way because they feel more comfortable in another grip. And like there's so many climbs where like if you only full crimp, like I know, like you're saying, like I know a lot of climbers who only full crimp and will be climbing inside on like a sloper and it has one tiny ridge and they can't grab it and they just full crimp the ridge and they just make the move like 5 times harder. Or like Colin Duffy on the Grinch, like he's a beast, so he did it. But like that hold, like three finger dragging that, if it were forced like that, it would be like V16. Like no one would do that climb. And like that is something that's honestly not like if you just put consistent effort into adding a new grip to your repertoire, like it's not that hard to do and it will increase your climbing so great. Like if you can go to a boulder and grab every hold like the ideal way it should be held, like spocked or like full crimped or half crimped or drag, you will just have access to like way more moves and it like allows you to climb on many more climbs. And I think a lot of people get like, oh, I'm strong in a full crimp, I'll just full crimp. But it doesn't really work like that all the time, I'd say.
Good stuff, you guys. My last I swear, last question. What is Noah? What is the ideal angle on a board?
I'll give okay. I'll give 3 answers. I'll give 4 answers. For moon,
That's all the
for moon it's
angles.
40 degree, right? Uh,
Correct.
for
Correct.
Kilterboard, it's 50 degree because that's where everyone sets. You know, it might be if everyone set on 60 degree, it would probably be 60 degree, but all the best climbs are on 50. Um, for Tensorboard 2, I actually think it's 50. I think the holds, the crimps, if you're climbing like V12 or 13, um, like the crimps feel shaped for trying really hard on like 50 degree, and you can train tension better by like really toeing in and pulling with your feet better on 50 than you can on 45. And then on woods board, I think steeper's better, like 55, honestly, because woods board has some really in-cut holds that they're small, but they're really in-cut, so you can like really bear down on them. So it's good for like training that death crimp. That's also important for outdoors. And then I'll add a fifth for sprayboard. The steeper is the better for sure. I'll just say that like the reason Cats is so good is because of the was like 70 degree wall. Like yeah, steepers. I think like training on like a steep spray wall is just so advantageous for tension. It's insane.
Nice. No slab there. All right. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I was actually what Noah said at the end. Like the boards, they have their angles based on where the climbs are set, and the hard climbs and moonboard obviously is usually or it is just unadjustable or whatever. But honestly, I think the steeper the better. Like 70 degrees. If you like a lot something we've been climbing in Cats a little bit, and Cats like there's a lot of like like Sean Rabb and Burke and Daniel. Like I've climbed with them in there, and it's like I can hang with them on the angles that are a less steep, like, and then because I can jump really far and I have contact strength, so like I can make it work. And then they get on the 70 and they're like a whole different level of climber. Like that's where you can really see like the full body strength. And I just can't, like, I just don't have it. And like that seems like one of the things that the very top level of like V16, V17 climber has is like that ability to climb in like the 70. So I would say if you can, go as steep as you can because it just works out your tension in a way that is just like it's like it just seems like something all the best climbers have, and that's something I think a lot of people, even at high grades, don't really have as much. But yeah, I would go 70 if you can for all of them. Yeah.
You guys done the bubble wrap project at Cats? Have you
Never
guys
tried.
tried it or know about it?
I know about it. I've not tried it.
It's
Apparently, I don't know what's.
the
Okay.
end. They switched
It's
out
like
the last hold, so technically you can't
yeah,
do it
they like
anymore. But
changed it.
you
Ah,
can throw for a hold that is
got
there,
chipped.
but it's like way harder. Like it might be V16 or 17 now.
Mm.
I don't know.
But yeah, we got to make a video in there. That place is
That is
crazy.
that's the goal.
Yes,
That's the
please.
goal. Let's see.
All right, guys. I'll be watching it, and I had a blast talking with you guys. Thanks for going deep on the boards.
Yeah.
Thanks for being the youngest crew on. I was gonna say you guys were the first siblings, but it was really cool when I got to do Katie Lamb and then Andy
Oh
Lamb
yeah.
right out one right after another. So you guys aren't quite the first siblings, but the first ones to be on here at the same time. And awesome hearing about your guys' take. You guys really, I know that's like kind of a broad brush to be like, you guys represent the young new generation, but there is a style that you guys do represent for me. I think for a lot of other people, where you're on the boards, you're crushing, are out there making media, and so hearing your take as the part of the community that makes content for all the nerds like you, but also for nerds like me. And I just loved it. That was really fun, you guys. I can't wait to see you guys' trip in Switzerland as well. I'll be paying close attention, and I want to talk to you guys again soon and climb with you too.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. We should climb at some point for
We should
sure.
definitely climb.
Ooh, can we do a wheel rock real wheel rock video?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do a test piece.
I'll
Test
come
piece
out.
wheel rock.
That's it.
We can do
That would be
Timmy
sick,
and you
actually.
versus Ben and me.
We could battle.
Sounds good. Ooh, that sounds. I may need a little handicap there. All right, guys. Good stuff. Super fun, and talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Nice talking.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like even more content, go to patreon.com/testpiece. And while you're at it, share this podcast with someone you know who would love it. And please leave us a review or rating at wherever you get your podcasts. We've also got tons of great content on YouTube and Instagram, so don't forget to like and subscribe there. Okay, see you next week.